Good evening. I will call to order the regular meeting for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for Monday, October the 25th. At this time, we'll have the roll call.
Sure. Mayor Noes.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Blanks.
Here.
Alderperson Amacher.
Here.
Barry.
Here.
Blackwell.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
McGee. Here. 7 present.
So we do have a quorum. This time I'll ask Reverend Elbert Smith if he'd come to the podium and deliver the invocation and then lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Reverend Smith.
Let us pray. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. May thy will be done this night here in this board meeting. We thank you for those that are able to give their time and everything to be here and conduct the business of the city. And we pray that you would guide them and direct them and do what's best for the city. We pray that you would have your own way, and we pray for our police and all of these firemen and people that put their lives in harm's way every time they go on a call. We pray that you'd watch over them, take care of them, keep the hand upon them. We know there's a lot of chaos going on in the world today, but it doesn't have to be here. There can be peace, there can be harmony, and we pray that would be so tonight in this meeting. May the Holy Spirit guide each one, we do pray, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Smith. As I look around the table tonight, I see a new face that we are delighted to have with us, Miss Cassidy Northcutt. And Cassidy is a great addition to our board tonight, and she's a senior at Telehoma High School, and see some of the things that I've learned about Cassidy today. Well, she's a very active member in work-based learning, and she's going to tell us more about work-based learning. She's in the National Honor Society, the National English Honor Society, and the Future Business Leaders of America, among many other things. When we get around to do our board reports tonight, we'll call on you, Cassidy, to give us some more details on the things you're doing at high school. Good to have you with us tonight. Tonight we have a very special presentation that we've been looking forward to getting for some time, and that's a presentation from Lyle Russell, our city forester. Mr. Russell, would you come to the podium and tell us what's going on in the world of forestry?
Certainly. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate that. Jordan, can I steal the clicker from you? All right, great. Well, first, thank you very much for allowing me to speak this evening. This has been a short while in the making, so you would think that this presentation would come more around budget time, but since we are at the very beginning of planting season, it's also a good time to talk about the urban forestry and the investment that the board and the city has made in what I do. So I became the city forester in August of 2020, and there'll be a slideshow up here in just a few moments that will talk a little bit about that, and I'll tell you about some of the things I've seen across the city in the time that I have been doing this position. And it's actually really good news. So while that's coming up, I'll tell you a couple of quick just gee whiz demographics, just so you have these in mind. For Tennessee total, it's about 42,180 square miles with a population just under 7 million. Interestingly enough, the tree canopy, thank you, sir. The tree canopy in Tennessee stands at 52 to 53%, and what's unique about that number is that it's the same now as it was in 1950, which on the surface sounds pretty good. It sounds like we're replacing as much as we're taking, but that's only because of the growth that's there. It's not new growth. Of that 52 to 53%, only 2% is a new growth forest. So that is something that the forestry groups out there are really looking at trying to change, trying to upgrade some of these forested areas. There's also some push statewide to replace some of the savanna areas that are just sparsely tree populated, no-mow areas, places like the May Prairie over in Manchester is a good example of some of the restoration projects that are going on in that. There's an estimated 8 billion trees in Tennessee. So if you do the math on that, trees outnumber us by people 1,200 to 1. So if the trees ever rise up against us, we are in trouble. I'll tell you a few Tullahoma tree demographics too before I get into the meat of it here. Out of that 42,000 square miles of Tennessee, Tullahoma is only 23 and a half, so relatively small, but with a new population of over 20,000 now. Since I've been forester, I've done 58 tree calls here in town. Most of those are for hazard removals, stumps, trimmings, dead limbs and that sort of thing. 7 of those were private property, which I do not have any authority to do anything with trees. I can advise, but that's about it. And then 3 of them I just went ahead and took care of myself. So. Our last tree canopy study for Tullahoma, where I said 52 to 53% is statewide, Tullahoma stands at 37%, which is still a good percentage. So while that's coming up here, I'll just keep going. Oh, there we go. Let me just catch up in my slide here. And then I will continue on. So the words urban forest, you hear it, but a lot of people don't really know what it means. Or if they do, they instantly think it's trees, and that's not necessarily the case. Urban forest encompasses everything we've got out there, whether it's deciduous plants, turf grass, fields that are mowed for hay or crops, that sort of thing. There's a lot of, I didn't think I hit the button there, but that's okay. But it's going to conjure up trees, and that's not necessarily the case. The overall hydrology of the area is what I try to be responsible for when I take care of our trees in town. Now this next slide, which, yeah, it's a little small up there. You may have seen this one before. This one's in that 2040 presentation of forested area, and I want you to note that between the 2 orange arrows there, that is the length of Rock Creek as it runs through town, and there's very little forested area on that. And if you were out there a couple months ago when we got that really heavy rainstorm and saw how far up Rock Creek came, I'm not saying that more trees would solve that, but a few more trees in that area may help that. Forested area, I know it's tough to come by in the middle of a city, but it is something to consider, particularly with development. And I'll talk about that here in just a moment. So I mentioned in 2010, 37% was Tullahoma's canopy coverage. So I'll tell you, I spent about month and a half ago, I spent 9 hours at my desk doing an iTree canopy survey, where it gives me 1,000 pictures of Tullahoma from satellite, and I have to go through and tell it what's in every picture, whether it's a tree, a building, a roadway, whatever it happens to be there, I have to give it a designation. So after 1,000 photos, Tullahoma now stands at 39%. So we've gone up a little bit, which I think is a good thing. There used to be an artificial number that was put out there that 40% was the goal, but I call that artificial because a city like Lincoln, Nebraska, that's a grassland state, or Phoenix, Arizona, will never hit 40% canopy. We're in the eastern part here, and we could hit it, but 39% is a very good number. I was very happy to see that it had gone up since that last study. I did not provide a copy of that for you, but I'd be happy to. If you're interested, just let me know. I'll be happy to email you one. I'll read this part to you here because I think this part is kind of important. So that 39% for Tullahoma and 52% statewide is just spatial coverage by number. That's what's under the canopy. Out of Tullahoma's 23.5 square miles, 9.2 square miles is under canopy. That gives us our 39% and an estimated 1.74 million trees just in our city limits. That sounds like a lot. The cool number about that, though, is this next slide here. That $34 million, that's a big number. That is the total value of the carbon that is stored in our 9.2 square miles of tree canopy. So if we were to take all that carbon today and stick it in a warehouse and pay storage fees on it, this is what it would cost us to do that. That's also keeping that from being out in the atmosphere, which is also a good thing too. So just in our small area here, we are saving that much. Now statewide, that number gets exponentially larger. So move on through that. So the question that I get asked the most is, why do people remove trees? You think trees are good, why do you want to cut them down? So I came up with basically 5 criteria that people have called me over my tree calls since I've been doing this. And some of them are true hazards. Some of them have falling limbs, broken canopies are a danger to either life, limb, or property, limb being the operative word there. But those have to come down. We got to take care of those. Sometimes I'll try to default on the side of the tree if it's something that can be corrected without taking the whole tree down. You know, I really do investigate that. I'm not into just hacking and slashing and taking them down for no reason. Probably one of the biggest ones I get, second biggest one is conflict with the built environment. Particularly, I also sit on the development committee, and we get to the chance to review plans and developers when they bring in for subdivisions and things like that. And I encourage them all, if they have, especially mature trees on their properties, to do what they can to work with them instead of clear cutting and then planting new. Those trees didn't grow up overnight. They've been there for several years. And I encourage all of those who are either building or developing, if you've got those trees, work with them in your plans. A lot of people call me to remove trees just for ease of living. They don't want to rake leaves. Nobody likes sweet gum trees that drop little spiky balls. I have several calls about those to remove. Sometimes you just got to live with it. Like I said, those trees didn't just pop up overnight. Some of it is aesthetics. I've had a couple people call wanting to remove them because they just didn't like where it was located, or they didn't like the type of tree that was there. That's a tough one. I understand it because I want people to like their property and so on, and I want the city to be a proactive part of that. But at the same time, if I've got a mature tree that just happens to be in a place you don't like it, chances are I'm not going to just cut it down. We'll see if we can come up with a landscape idea to work around it. But the last one is the biggest one I get in. It's just fear. I grew up in Florida, where hurricane country it's almost a way of life, and a lot of people are just afraid of it. And I understand that. Trees can do some serious damage. We've got some big trees in this town, and if they come down in the wrong place, they're going to hurt somebody, or they're going to tear something up. So I understand that. If you have a tree that you're worried about, that you have some fears about, let me know. I'll be happy to come out and talk to you about it. I have a gentleman right now that has a leaning tree that he was terribly worried about falling on his neighbor's house. And it turns out the tree is just growing that way because all the other canopy around it is shading it out so much that it's growing out kind of sideways to get more sunlight. So just because it looks like it's in trouble doesn't mean that it always is trouble. So just something to keep in mind when that comes around. I will touch on this very briefly. I have a much longer presentation on the heat island effect, but to give you an idea, you've probably heard this before. If you can picture a stack of charcoal briquettes when you're getting ready to smoke a big old Boston Bud or something like that, and you stack those coals close together and you light those coals, they play off each other, they heat off of each other. They get much hotter when they're closer together. The same thing happens with buildings. When the sun is out, when the sun's beating down, and it's beating down on buildings that only have 10 to 15 foot or whatever happens to be the space between them, that heat gets trapped in there, and that's part of what's called the heat island effect. There are some ways to combat that. The easiest way, especially for our builders and contractors out there, is to build with lighter colored building materials. All materials have what's called an albedo rating. It's 0 to 1, 0 being the most absorbent, 1 being the most reflective. So if you picture new fallen snow is reflective, but the ocean is almost at a 0. It absorbs everything. Trees stand at about a 20 or about a 0.2 on the albedo scale. So you wouldn't think that that's that big of a deal, but and let me zip through this right here. As you can see, forested area stands at 20% there. I know it's a little bit small. But trees have this thing called evapotranspiration, and it's what they do with the heat that makes them unique. Trees will take that heat in, they absorb it, but then they turn around and use it in their processes. And then the tree in turn releases water, which keeps it cool underneath. That's the whole idea of shade. That's one of the benefits of keeping these canopy trees, these bigger trees on your properties. It does cool the ground underneath it. It does make a big difference. And even though that tree absorbs that heat, it gives it off in water vapor as opposed to just straight heat like a building would. So for the builders out there or folks who are looking at maybe redoing their roof, lighter colored materials is the way to go. Most definitely. And if you ever have any questions about that, I'd be happy to talk with any builders or contractors about that as well. So getting close to the end here. So what is Tullahoma doing right now with our urban canopy? Some of you may recall a couple weeks ago, the mayor was authorized to sign off on a TAEP grant for us that is going to bring our arboretum up to level 3 and plant 55 new trees here in Tullahoma. 19 of those will be at the arboretum. The rest will be at Johnson Lane. That's going to be a really good project, and we're really looking forward to doing that. That's all on parkland property at the moment, but there may be room for others. Memorial tree program is very strong. We've got 8 new ones that I'm going to be putting in the ground this fall. We just put in 7 new trees at Jefferson Street at the basketball courts out there for our dedication coming up on Saturday, excuse me. And then finally, we've been looking at a project at Wagner Park to help with some of the foul ball issues from the baseball fields going out into the road and into the parking lot. So we're looking at some possibilities with trees there and putting in some to help with that. But even though we're doing all of that, there is more that we can do. And I'll touch on this again. I said earlier, if you are about to develop a property, or if you're doing some land work or something like that, work with the trees that you have, incorporate it into your design. It's not terribly hard to do. I realize you can't save them all, but do the best you can, because those, like I said, they don't grow overnight. If you cut one of those big ones down, it's going to take 100 years or so to replace it. Again, consider lighter colored building materials. It's expensive, but it's worth it in some cases if you have a forested property, to look at hiring an arborist to come in and do some tree maintenance on your property. That will help tremendously with issues with, they call them widow makers, where they have the large trunks that are up above that are dead and about to fall. If you take care of them before they become a problem, those problems are significantly lessened. Plant with a plan. Don't just stick a bunch of trees in the ground. Understand that there is also a watering and fertilizer regimen that has to go alongside it. And be good stewards of the ones that you have on your properties now. Take a look at what's there and see what you can do to help improve it. Not only will it increase your property value, but it will also help out the tree canopy in general. My last slide here, and I know it's a little hard to read, but I'm going to tell you a quick story. I mentioned I'm from Florida, and my dad came to visit, and he's not the most quotable person I've ever met, but he had one that was pretty good. I drove him around and showed him all of the park properties that I'm responsible for, taking care of the trees and so on. And one of the things he said is that he's amazed at how many big trees that we still have here. You don't see that in Florida anymore. In the area where I grew up in, it's called Sulphur Springs, and they had these huge grand water oaks and live oaks down there that had these monstrous limbs that I climbed on as a kid constantly. Never broke a bone, but a lot of scrapes off of those. But a housing renaissance came through the area, and a lot of the new homeowners that came in were not from there, which is not necessarily a problem, but because of a little bit of that fear, especially with hurricanes, they cut a lot of those down and replaced them with low-growing palm trees, something that's smaller, easier to manage. And those oaks are no longer there. They've actually instituted a very, I'd almost call it overreach of protecting those oaks now, where the city actually has to give you permission before you can cut down trees. Sometimes I think that's necessary, but down there it's become a necessity because they lost a lot of those trees. And Tullahoma is not in that situation, but you never know when things could happen. So we do have a lot of really good trees here. We've got a lot of cool stuff, especially with our new willow oak that just got named the state champion tree. And I would just charge everybody who lives within our city limits, and even those without, to just take good care of that canopy environment, and it'll take care of us. So thank you for your time and allowing me to speak. I appreciate it.
Would you take any questions that we have?
Absolutely. If anybody has any, I'd be happy to.
Any
Sorry that
questions?
ran a little long.
If we have no questions, I'll thank you. It's very informative and a great job, great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate
for
it.
serving our city. Thank you. This time I'll open the podium to any comments from citizens. If you care to come to the podium and make any statements, I've asked you to state your name and your address and limit your comments. Try to keep it within a couple of minutes. Is there anyone who cares to come to the podium? If not, we'll move right on to reports from our aldermen. And with that, we'll start with Alderman Amacher.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's kick it off with our small business shout out of the week, or 2 weeks rather. Sonoma Bread Company. This is located in Downtown Avenue, so I have a little menu here that I picked up from them. I'm quite a fan, actually. They have some gluten-free and keto options: soups, salads, paninis, signature sandwiches, located in 115 Northwest Atlantic Street inside Downtown Avenue. Their number is 931-434-6047. They also do catering. So I noticed that they had some fall specials right now. So they had some butternut squash soup the other day that looked pretty awesome. And my favorite's the Sonoma cranberry turkey. So y'all go in and check that out. It's right next to the cheesecakery. So stop by and pick you up a slice of Almond Joy cheesecake. It's my absolute favorite. I, over the past 2 weeks, attended the mayor's meeting on last Thursday regarding all of the, what do we call that?
Planning and coordinating.
Planning and coordinating, thank you. I couldn't come up with the term. And, you know, I'm always the first one to criticize what's going wrong with our city government. And I just want to tell y'all that there are a lot of people sitting in this room who were also at that meeting and do a lot of things for this city. And, you know, that's really humbling to see how many people work to make this city great. So I was vocal in thanking them, but I want to thank them again tonight for everybody that participates in nonprofits and our Fine Arts Center and South Jackson and all of our tourism and all of our groups that make this city great. Thank you for all of your hard work. It doesn't go without noticing, even if we don't mention it enough up here. Other than that, Mr. Mayor, I believe that's all I have tonight.
Thank you, Alderman Paul Margaret. Alderman Berry.
Mr. Mayor, I attended the Planning Commission meeting. I also sit on the TAEDC, and there's always big things happening there that you can't talk about. We didn't have a meeting yet, but I also was able to attend the Bel Air Walkathon, which was pretty awesome. Several of us were there. I'm coaching their K through 3rd football team. Our K-1 made it to the playoffs. We play Thursday, so it was great to see some of the players out there, and it's just a really awesome event overall. That's it.
Alderman McGee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I went out to the airport during the beach party, and that was neat, just seeing all the different planes out there. They had a pretty big crowd this year, so that was exciting and fun for me. I also attended the Tullahoma City Schools. I believe it was the 5-year plan at Farrah School. I attended the Industrial Board of Coffee County meeting, also the Telehoma Housing Authority meeting, and I also stopped by the birthday party that was had for the chamber at South Jackson Civic Center. I attended a prayer walk on Saturday, which was just heartwarming to just be a part of that. I'm still working on the project or the ceremony for Wreaths Across America that's going to be held December the 18th at Evergreen Cemetery, which is the first Wreaths Across America ceremony to be held there. And I am counting down to the trunk or treat that will be this Saturday at the Cook Street entrance of the Jefferson Street Park. So lots of things planned, cakewalk, face painting, pumpkin painting, snow cones, cotton candy, a couple of other surprises for the kids, and we're just looking forward to having that event for our community and our city. Thank you. That's all I have.
Alderman Dunn.
Sir. So I know Jennifer and I have been trying to meet for a little while about just different projects that we're trying to do. And at our last meeting that we were talking, Miss Kathy Rose from Lanham Library came in, and I don't want to say too much about what's going on at Lanham, but I will say that there are exciting things happening. And if you haven't been to the library in a while, I strongly urge you to go. They're currently looking for help. So if you are, if you like books and you like to check out books, then I know there are definitely some positions open over there. And just as a reminder, that's funded mainly through the county. So we do provide, I think, about $10,000 on the city board. But yeah, that's a really exciting thing. So definitely go and talk to them if you're thinking about either giving financially or giving of your time. I went to the Bel Air Walkathon as well, and I want to say a big thank you to Miss Penelope, who is at kindergarten, and she walked around with me, and she was very helpful with that. So thanks, big thank you to Penelope and to Principal Epley and to the PTO President, Don Bethay, for all that they did to put that together. And also, huge thank you to Lyle for his presentation. Do very much appreciate it. He said maybe just a little smidgen of what he really does. He's doing so much good work through that. So thank you very much, Lyle. And and happy birthday to the Chamber, 100 years. And if you are wanting to go to the Go Green meeting, our next one is November 1st at 5 o'clock. We'll meet in this room.
Thank you. Alderman Blackwell.
Yes, I'm going to try to make this short. I did have one of my coffee and conversations open forum meetings where people come and talk to me about what their concerns are, ideas are for the city. And a lot of people actually came and were talking about people who are experiencing homelessness. And, you know, there are some very committed volunteers who are trying to work in this community shepherd's house, as well as some other volunteers to try to help with that situation. I've been working alongside them on that. The Board of Education meeting was last week. Last week? Gosh, it was that long ago. I actually did not attend and submitted my report to them via email. They received that and shared it, which is great, as I was flying out for work. Downtown committee or council that we're working with, Winston Brooks, thank you so much. I have a lot of to-do items on my task list for that. Some things are already starting to come together, seeing what it looks like this holiday season in downtown, that's for sure. One last thing that I want to share, other than happy birthday to the Chamber as well, is this week, I was going to put this all in your mailbox, but I actually ran out of invitations. Some of y'all got it in mail. But this Saturday is the dedication for Jefferson Street Park. It's at 1 p.m. I'm really excited for it. I don't know if you guys have been down to the basketball courts, but thank you, Lyle. It looks fabulous down there. Those trees make a huge difference. It looks beautiful. So thank you to our Parks and Recreation and Public Works guys for all working, and women for working so hard down there. I'm looking forward to the dedication. 1 p.m., Jefferson Street Park. I'd love for all of y'all to come. Y'all. I'm sorry, and everyone, but yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Blanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since our last meeting, had a Duck River meeting last Wednesday. We have water, we have good quality water, and it's not very expensive, so enjoy. There's some places out that depend on the Colorado River. I was watching something maybe last night on 60 Minutes that they've been undergoing a 20-year drought in that part of the country, so those states will be fighting over water for the next decade probably. So on a very similar side note, the Normandy Reservoir was initially built to provide water for Tullahoma, Manchester, and Shelbyville. At present, other people down the line in the Duck River are putting their tentacles in the Duck River as well. Marshall County, Lewisburg, Columbia, yada, yada, yada. So, you know, that little footprint of where we draw water is providing water to much more than was anticipated. So there can be water fights even on a state level too. So we would encourage those entities downstream to build their little big water tube to Tennessee River and get their water that way. So that'll happen in the next few years. I hope I'm not part of that fight, but that's something we have to recognize. Also like to give kudos to a THS football team and Coach Olive, who are now 9-0, undefeated. They're 7-0 in the region. They captured the region title last Friday night. If they continue to win, they will have home advantage through the playoffs until they go to the state championship. So good luck, THS football team. Also cruised by on my scooter, the beach, Heritage Beach Party. It's good to see all the planes. Last year they weren't able to have that because of the pandemic, but it was back nearly in full force this year. So that always brings a few extra dollars to Tullahoma's tourism industry. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Shop Tullahoma. About forgot.
Okay. Ms. Northcutt, as our honorary alderman, you probably have some things on your agenda that you'd like to tell us about. Tell us about the things that are going on at high school and give us some of your plans for the future.
Okay, every other Monday, well, every Monday, actually, we have some people from my math class go to West Middle School and help with the math team if they have some questions about some certain concepts, or like if they have questions on a test that they need help with because they are low on helpers for their meetings. And I actually go every other week, but we go every Monday. We just alternate turns. And then Tuesdays, we have our NHS meetings, and we discuss all of our personal projects and service opportunities so we can get more involved with certain things. This Wednesday, actually, we are doing Mayor's Youth Council is doing a bake sale, and we're going to start it at 7:15 in the morning and at 7:45, and then also do it on the afternoons. And we'll also be doing it Thursday so we can get some money and give it to the Henry Center so we can help with people that need certain things. And so we're just going to let them handle that after we finish doing the bake sale. And then we have the new pause thing this year. So we had, for the seniors, Jostens and FAFSA actually came in, or we got help on certain things like that. And we all ordered our cap and gowns mostly last Thursday. And then we have a new school newspaper, which we haven't actually had, so this is new for us. And NEHS, which is National English Honor Society, will be handling most of that, and we have co-editors and stuff. I am the vice president, actually, and I work with our president, Biff Regal, to get most of the stuff under control. And then we also newly, we get to volunteer with Mu Alpha Theta, people who are members in that for hours. We get to tutor during pause for different teachers in their classroom. So we can do that to get some of our hours, because we have to have 5 hours or something like that for the school year. And then lastly, I actually do work-based learning at Bel Air, so I was at the walkathon and everything. And I go there most times at 1 o'clock, and I miss our pause or whatever, but I go at 1 o'clock, and then I'll go spend the day with them, and I'll help each kid separately if they need some separate help, or if they're just having problems understanding an assignment or a concept or anything like that. And I've been doing it since the beginning of the school year, but it's been very rewarding. And I actually will be done with it this semester and then go work at Little Cats next semester. But I absolutely love it there. They're all angels.
Any plans for college?
Yes, I have been working on all my individual things, but I have to get a portfolio together because for art school I'm applying to do photography. So I have to get 15 pictures together for each of those. And then if I don't do photography, then I'll be an elementary school educator.
Sounds like a wonderful career. If you would stand at your desk there at the desk in front of the flag, we have
I have one question for you.
Yes.
How'd you do?
Is the school newspaper called Echo?
No, it's called THS Pause or something like that.
It was called the Echo.
No, it definitely was when we
Right
were,
at
too.
the turn of the century.
Were you on the newspaper staff?
I was a contributor.
Were they writing articles about you?
Yes, if you would stand in front of the flag, I have a certificate for you. That's what he was looking for, but that's, you gave him the right. Thank you for being here this evening.
Want some water? Pass it on over.
Oh, wait, I'm actually pretty good right now.
Chug it down.
How are you, Rosemary?
Do you need water?
Thank you.
Got it? Got it. Hydrate.
Okay. The mayor has been relatively active for the last couple of weeks at the airport board on the last Tuesday night, 12th. Of course, the beach party was right after that on Thursday. Then we had the Bel Air Walkathon. Boy, I've never seen so many grade school kids in my life as there was there at one time. That was exciting to see that. We've got the Planning Commission meeting. It's already been mentioned. It's on the 18th that I participated in. I also attended a program called the Intercoastal waste disposal plan. We had a meeting down in Fayetteville to talk about what are we going to do with our Class 1 household garbage waste in the future. Landfills are filling up, and what are we going to do? So there's a planning session going on with that, with our public works people down there. So we're pretty excited about possibilities of things that might be happening with that. In addition to that, I hope everyone knows about the planning that's going on for our 2040 plan. But it's coming to a head. It's winding down, getting to short rows, as you would say, in farming in parlance. But on November the 11th, that's Armistice Day, or Veterans Day, from 6 to 9, we'll have a meeting at the Tullahoma High School cafeteria. And have a workshop there. The public is invited for that 6 to 9 workshop. Then on November the 15th, Phil Walker and his team will be coming to the high school auditorium. It's two different places. One's the cafeteria, the next one, the 15th, will be at the auditorium. That'll be at 5:30 to 7:30, where the collaborative group will present their plan for the Telehoma at the high school auditorium, the plan for 2040. So that's coming down, and everyone is anxious to see the results of that. So at this time, we'd like to ask our city attorney, would like to tell us what's going on in the legal world.
Well, fortunately for the town, I was gone last week, so not much happened at my office, but it's a mistake, because when I got back, a lot of things that happened I didn't know about. But other than that, I don't have any report tonight. I may have some comments later on in the
Very good.
evening when we
Very good, thank you. Okay, then we'll turn to our city administrator, Ms. Moody.
Thank you. I have a few things. October 12th, Mayor Noes and I hosted the Coffee County Leadership for their Government Day. We enjoyed that. Also attended with the mayor the Interlocal Solid Waste Authority Strategic Planning Meeting. And as you said, it was, I thought, a very interesting, very well done presentation. I could tell a lot of thought has already gone into thinking about the decades ahead of us and potential for landfill costs to increase. And so it was good to be a part of that planning effort. Need to make you aware of an emergency purchase that we made. Our 6-year-old server that hosts our financial enterprise software went out on us. Fortunately, we were able to recover everything from the cloud and replace that server, and it was just over $10,000 for that server. I think all of the staff lost 1 day's worth of input and were able very quickly to get that back in. So all told, it was a bad event to have our server go out before we could have replaced it, but the recovery and replacement effort went really smoothly. On October 16th, we had a Battle of the Badges. I've heard that Tullahoma Fire Department were the big winners against our police department. So I'm sure in a few months we'll have to have a rematch and see how that goes. Also, our Vanderbilt Hospital helped us with our wellness event that we do every year, where we offer free blood draws and flu shots for our employees. A lot of people took advantage of that. And then also wanted to remind everybody, today is the last day of our farmers market season. I always hate to see that go, but it runs from May through October each year. And very proud of the effort they put into this season and looking forward to assisting them next year with the market. Then I had 2 quick updates on projects. Recently, I think one of the aldermen asked me about our Cedar Lane sidewalk project. That is a state-funded project, as you know, tend to move very slow through the phases. The environmental review phase can take up to 2 years. We just recently got our notice that we are complete with environmental review, and we'll be completing our engineering design phase, getting ready for bids and construction probably 2 years from now. So just to be honest, TDOT projects are about like that. But yes, that is a real funded project that we have, almost $1 million project. And then I just wanted to make note, because it's on the consent agenda, it's an application for a grant. But just wanted to thank and recognize Alderman Dunn for really a lot of effort that she has put into supporting the staff work that we do with our stormwater program. I think it was only a month or two ago that you adopted our watershed plan, which has allowed us to be eligible to apply for what's called a non-point,
Non-source.
non-source point grant, or 319 grant, that will be helping us improve water quality in Rock Creek. And so it kind of ties nicely into some of Lyle's presentation tonight. As you said, there's areas along Rock Creek that are in need of restoration, and we are applying to be able to do some replanting work, but also some grading work that will stabilize the banks along Rock Creek. So the project, or the item on tonight's agenda is to allow us to move forward with that grant application. Like all grants, we are not budgeting any money at this time, but we do make you aware of what the potential obligation could be if we are awarded. And if we're successful, we'll bring back another agenda item to allocate funds at that time. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Moody. We'll move on to the consent agenda. We'll remind you that all matters listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. During that portion of the meeting reserved for comments from citizens as shown on the agenda, citizens may request the board remove an item from the consent agenda so it can be moved, make sure it can be held, separate discussion can be held on that item. So with that, I'll read the caption for the consent agenda. Item number 21-139 is simply the minutes from the regular public meeting hearing that was on October the 11th. Item 21-141 is to set a public hearing for November the 8th. That's on a request to rezone a parcel on 200 block of Ledford Mill Road from general commercial, C2, to high-density residential, that's R3. Item number 21-142 is to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement from the Telehoma Utility Authority for a grant and easement in order to install new sewer lines, and that's across the airport area there that's in your packet, maps there. Item number 21-143 is to accept the mayor's appointment of Mr. Andy Hall to a 5-year term expiring on October the 26th, 2026. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Hall. Mr. Hall, if you'd come to the podium, you might like to say a few words about why you'd like to be on the Planning Commission.
I like it. I want to be on the Planning Commission because I love Tullahoma, and that's one of the boards that really interests me, and I'm very excited to be a part of it. And yeah.
Might ask a question. How many Planning Commission meetings have you attended virtually?
I've watched every single one.
For how long?
For as long as I've been televised.
Okay, so you've been staying on top of it then?
Yes.
Very well. Well, that's, I think and what is your address?
What is my address? 121 Bradbury Court.
So on Bradbury Court, so you're a welcome addition to the Planning Commission. Look forward to having you there. Thank you for being willing to serve. The next item on the consent agenda is item number 21-144, as Ms. Moody has discussed. It's a request to approve the submission of a grant application for the Tennessee Department of Agriculture non-point source grant program to restore along Rock, 40% local match, 60% grant support. So with that, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Approved from Alderman Grant, motion by Blackwell, seconded by McGee. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, yes, I have discussion. I would like to remove item number 21-144 just because I have a few questions.
Item 144 will be removed, discussed later. With that modification, Any further discussion? All in favor, vote green. Bedford, no. That's approved 7-0. Thank you. And with that, we'll take that item up under new business. Very good. Thank you. Under old business, we have an ordinance, numbers 1568, an ordinance to amend the zoning map of the city of Tullahoma as set forth in the Telehoma Municipal Code, which is ordinance number 1392, to rezone an approximately .58 acres parcel that's located on 702 South Atlantic Street. That parcel is moved from C2, which is general commercial, to C3, neighborhood commercial. And that's for the passage on second reading, so that's been discussed in previous meetings. So entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second, motion by Blackwell, seconded by Dunn. Any discussion? Green for approval, red for no. And that's approved on 7-0. Thank you. And that was on second and final reading. Item number 21, 145, I'll read the caption, then I'll give you some background. To consider, this is based on some flaws in the process that we've had in the city. Consider denial of all applications of certificate of compliance that are currently on file. That's for certificate of compliance for approval for liquor license, of course. And in a timely manner, to hold a meeting to determine a more transparent and equitable process for the issuance of one approval when multiple eligible applicants are presented. And we did not get that meeting held prior to this. Our city attorney was out of town, as he indicated on other business. We do have a scheduled meeting for November the 10th for that special call. So with that, if you would look on page 101 of your packet, see some details regarding this, and I'll give you at this point in time, we have 4 applications on file. They're from Jay Dameron, 622 Wilson Avenue, McKendra and Rita Patel, 2200 North Jackson Street, and Bonnie and Emily Ben Patel, 2230 North Jackson Street, and from Jay Patel, 1102 South Jefferson Street. Those applications have been filed and are on file currently, requesting a certificate of compliance. Here's the recommendation that's coming to the board for this. In a nutshell, based on the applications that we've discussed in the last 2 board meetings, actually, in light of the concerns raised regarding equitable treatment and transparency and the lack of any guidance on the method for selecting between multiple eligible applicants within the municipal code, the board is recommended to acknowledge that there was a flawed process and to deny all current applicants on that basis. Not for any fault of the applicants, but on the city's part for not recognizing we were going to reach 20,000 people. In fact, we were continuously monitoring what the census was projecting to be, and it remained projections of staying within 19,000, not reaching 20,000. So with that, we were not prepared to have a plan for selecting applicants. So with that, it's recommended that we start over, and with the special call meeting on the 10th of November, we will, with legal counsel, we will come up with an equitable process for awarding one applicant. So with that, I'd entertain a motion for denial of the applicants that are on file.
The motion is for denial.
The motion is for denial of all applicants until we have a process in place.
Move to deny.
Second.
We have a motion to deny from Mayor Blanks and seconded by Dunn.
Blackwell.
Excuse me. Any discussion?
Mayor?
Yes, lots.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes?
Sorry, my question is whether or not the applicants who have already applied, who've paid for the background checks, will their fee be refunded, or will it be able to be carried over so that when they apply, and if they choose to apply again, they'll be able to utilize that same background check, et cetera?
If they apply, there will not be a separate fee for applying.
Okay, so they won't be double charged?
That is
Okay,
correct.
Thank you.
Any further
Just, I
discussion?
wanted to just clarify that.
Now we'll call the
Yes.
question.
No, we have lots of discussion over here.
I'm waiting.
Did you want to go? You pulled your mic down. Okay, so number one, this is a failure of not just our city administration, our city administrator, but it's also a failure of the board. This is completely unfair and arbitrary to the people who submitted their applications, to start over and restart this process based on our flaw. We should be on a first come, first served basis. And I've come across some new information that I think privy to share with the board on why this should be submitted to one applicant. According to the retail package store licensing requirements, there is a provision that says no owner can have any interest, either direct or indirect, in more than 2 retail package stores, retail food stores, or an alcohol license in the supplier or wholesaler tier of licenses. A retail food store is actually still the same as a convenience store. So it says that you can't have any interest, either direct or indirect, in more than 2. The other applicants already have 2 retail food stores. So this would actually bump them out if this were to be challenged at the state level. Also, if that were not enough, the locations that they used, the Patels used, one of them is a building that is for sale that does not even have a contract on it, and the other is the location of a current retail food store or convenience store. You cannot have a liquor store inside of a convenience store. They do not have a location that is qualifying, so that should immediately disqualify them. Also, by, let's see, by the email that we got from Mr. Byron Patel and on behalf of his father, he even admits that they didn't make the timeline for this application, but he's requesting that consideration, but by his own admission, they didn't put in for it. For this to be fair, and for us to go by what the rules say, there's only been one applicant that has followed the rules, submitted all of it on time, and actually has qualifying indicators on their application. I'm going to make a motion at this point that this certificate of compliance be granted to Mr. J. Dameron.
We've already got a motion and a second on the floor.
We have a motion and a second, and we're in discussion phase of that motion currently. So until we dispense with that, is there, Alderman Berry, you had a comment?
Yeah, just real quick, I agree with some of what Alderman Almacher had said. I think, though, at the last meeting, and based off of what we are denying these on, that the only way to move forward is to deny and to define the process. With that being said, I think that if we as a board are going to say that that process the treatment was not equitable and that it was not transparent, that I would hope that actions have been taken to remedy or resolve or consult those involved in making that not equitable, whether that's training or disciplinary or whatever. Because I think for us to say that we're acknowledging that something happened, whether intentional or not. And I also think that the board this isn't just a failure of on staff side. I think it is a board. I think we didn't take time individually. I think that's apparent to each look at the laws regarding this and to do our own research, because there was a lot of, this is 2 months now, we've been doing this. And so I hope that moving forward, we each take the time to go through the items in our packet. And if we have a question, stop and ask that question. But I do think that the only way forward, unfortunately, is to deny and make sure that, but in the future, something, I know that this came upon us quick in the numbers with the census, but even then, before it made it to our agenda, it should have been figured out, whether through study session or otherwise. And I hope that in the future, items like this don't make it on our agenda, because this was kind of a circus.
I think, Alderman Berry, at this point, I think it's pretty obvious that we are looking forward, and looking forward, we would acknowledge what's transpired in the past. We're looking forward to make that as equitable as we possibly can. Alderman McGee.
I just have a question. How much time and effort is put in by these applicants to complete the application to get these licenses? Is it pretty time consuming?
No, the application is primarily for a background check.
Okay.
So same thing, the fee that they pay helps
Okay.
to cover the cost of that background check, and it's good for 12 months.
I think that's misleading.
Point of order. I think we can come back. I
Okay,
think-
I'll come back, but that's
Well, I'll
misleading.
separate that from the state license process. I would say that is quite time-consuming. So, Alderman Amacher, I'm not sure, I mean, I'm open to hearing what you have to say, but from my experience, those that have come in, they've been able to receive the application, fill it out, and pay within that same visit.
I'll explain in a minute.
Alderman McGee, did you have any other questions?
No, I didn't have any other questions. I just wanted to, I didn't know if it took a lot of time, and it's something that we probably need to take into consideration. By denying
Mayor Pro
it.
Tem?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only thing I would say is, this process could have been done better. I think we'll learn from this. It's been forever since we've added a retail liquor license here in Tullahoma.
Jimmy, they can't hear you. Could you pull your mic down?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll repeat what I just said. This process could have been done better. Did we do it correctly? No. Has it been a pain for those involved? Yes, and we apologize. From a board standpoint and also our staff, we could have done this better. Going forward, we need to do this right. And the only way to do it right is to start all over. In the future, since that we haven't issued a liquor license in this city in a coon's age, we've been, as long as I've been around, between 15,000 and 19,000. So it's probably been 40 years plus since we've added a liquor license. So, to go back and find somebody that could say, how did y'all do this? That's hard to find. But, we need to be really, really sure when we define this process. Once we get this liquor license situated, we can revisit our charter and change that if we need to. This language of not more than one license shall be issued. Shall is a key point. That means we have to. If we had in here will or can, then we could just say, we don't want to give any more liquor license. That would be the discretion of this board, and we could have ended this, period. We didn't have to have any more liquor stores if that one word was changed, probably. So that may be something that we want to revisit, once we get this situated. But, we apologize. This has been a sort of a boondoggle, but we're going to try to make it right and just be a little more patient with this. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Alderman Dunn.
Sure. I know that this has not been very pleasant. I know I've had, and I certainly want to lean on our attorney just to make sure that we do have that proper wordage and everything. But I know I've had people reach out to me already, several people saying we don't need another liquor store, period, at all. So I'm certainly open to that idea as well. I know, of course, depending on that wordage, whether that's a possibility or not. That's where I stand right now.
Alderman Blackman.
You guys know, I made the motion last time to rescind it. I think it was very clear it wasn't a fair process. In my mind, the things that Alderman Almacher brought up are things that should be brought up at the study session so that we can put a process into place. I think we need to start fresh. Apologies to each and every one of you. I don't have a dog in this fight and don't care in any which way how this goes, but in my mind, it just has to be fair.
Right.
And the process has not been fair. And that's our bad. That's absolutely our bad. But let's make it right. Let's start over.
Okay, and that, you referred to a study session, that's actually be a special call meeting on November
Sorry.
the 10th.
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Alderman Almacher.
Okay, so going back to why I believe that Ms. Moody's statements were misleading, to your question, Zenobia, Mr. Mayor, how much work is putting together this application? Well, it's not actually just about filling out the application itself. It's about all the front work that you have to do as far as having a business plan in place, having a qualifying location, which our applicants don't have except for one of us, understanding that there was a moratorium that was in place that has been in existence for the last 5 years that our city administrator should have been aware of and planned and prepped for, considering we knew that our census was probably going to come back. So these are things that we should have been ready for. Also, you made the statement that we're going to make a timely meeting. We've had 2 months here. These people ought to have an answer tonight. Not only have we had 2 months, we could have set a meeting, even like Rupa had suggested, before this board meeting. And then we ran into this, well, we haven't given adequate notice. But there is a provision in our ordinances that say that we can waive adequate notice if there are exigent circumstances. I believe that an exigent circumstance had already arisen based on the fact that we have not made a decision and we're about to violate our own ordinance. Also, to go ahead and prep and schedule a November 10th study session for something after our deadline, to me, is almost like a violation of sunshine in itself, because it's under the assumption that tonight's measure is going to pass. And to me, that's completely unfair to all of the applicants. So, number one, it's very misleading to say, oh, well, filling out the paper doesn't take that much time. No, it's the front work that comes before you can come up here to fill out that information. And in fairness,
the alderman needs to address the mayor and not anybody else in the audience per our rules and our charter and our ordinances. So I would ask
I am addressing the mayor.
You might want to look at it.
I am addressing the mayor.
alderman respect that.
There were exigent circumstances that have arisen that we could have already had a meeting on this, and I feel like to continue to put this off, given the information that we have right now, it's still unfair. That's all I have.
Yeah, well,
Thank you. Call the question, we've gone around the discussion. Okay, we have a motion to deny all the applicants. Vote green for denial, red for disagree. And that motion passes 6-1 to deny. There will be a special call session on November the 10th to come with council to discuss an equitable, fair solution to this issue for all concerned. And that's the process we'll get to, and that will go into our city code, we trust. Mayor Pro Tem. Okay. Thank you again to those applicants who have made applicants for a certificate of compliance. And I think it should be clear to you that we acknowledge that we didn't have the process in place. We will get the process in place, and it will be fair to all. Thank you for your participation. I think there is no other old business. We'll move down to, under new business, I'd like to take up item number, from the consent agenda, item 21-144, for the approval of submission of a grant. If you had a question.
Yes, what page is that on? Give me.
84.
On 184.
Okay. My first question is about the consulting engineers at St. John Engineering. They're going to write the application and administer the grant. Is the cost of that included in the match required, or the grant funds that we're setting aside?
No, it wouldn't be. You've met Jim Patterson that actually manages our stormwater program
Yes.
for us. My understanding, he would just be doing this for the fees that we already pay. Will you come speak at the, and this is our director, Robert Taylor.
Jim would be doing that on his Thursday time. He's here every Thursday. I've got him tasked with several things, but it would be done primarily on his time here on Thursdays.
Yes.
So does this have a cap at 150,000?
It doesn't. That's something that we talked with the state, and there is no cap on this particular grant. So they really just look at it on a project basis. The cost sharing is 60-40, and the 40% match, what I really like about this one is it doesn't have to be cash, it can be in kind. And so talking with Public Works Director Taylor, a lot of the work, the grading work to do the bank stabilization, he has the equipment and he believes his crews would be able to complete this work. So I think most of ours is going to be in kind. And then Alderman Dunn could speak to the work that she's done through the Go Green Committee. They have some corporate sponsors lined up to provide cash donations if we need that.
If I could, let me get things back in order. First, we need to get the motion on the table, a second, then we'll have a discussion. So is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion from Dunn, seconded by Blackwell.
No, Blackwell motion. One of them seconded.
I don't know who said it.
The motion's been made and seconded.
Yes.
Now then, discussion has started. Are there any other discussion?
Thank
If not,
you.
I'll call the question.
I will, I'll definitely just speak quite a bit to this. I know that Butch has worked very hard on this, and as Jim Patterson, this was actually kind of put off. This was going to be last December was when we were going to apply, and COVID really set us back quite a bit. This is something that we've been looking at for just a long time. It's with this project, our hope is that some of the problems that I know I've had people talk to me about at Fraser McEwen Park and some of these other places where you can see that gravel and that sediment, this would be something that would help stabilize that. So in the years to come, you know, it won't look like that anymore. It'll look more like it did 20, 30 years ago. And I think, you know, to think that this is a place where, this is why people came to Tullahoma, was this fresh water source, these springs. And to have it hidden behind a shopping center, and a lot of people don't even know it's there, it's something that we need to pay tribute to. I know that I've had many people, they want to talk to me about sidewalks. The other thing that they're concerned about is flooding. And this is not to fix flooding. It is to fix the cleanliness of the stream. But this is all, it's all interconnected, and it's one of those things that we really need to.
Yeah, if I could add to that.
Sure.
It is. It's water quality, it's water quantity. And the project that we have picked out around the airport, you can't see it, trust me, it's back there if you want to take a trek through the woods. The banks back there are vertical. There's no more slope. I mean, it's just vertical banks. You walk back there, you can fall 6 feet straight down into gullies. So we're trying to get that back. We're on a 303D list, which is for impaired stream for sediment and a few other things. But this helps us get that started. If we don't start somewhere, Rock Creek is just going to get worse and worse as we go. So we got to start somewhere to get it there, and this is a first step. There's a lot of money we could spend all along Rock Creek improving various things, but somewhere we got to start getting both things together, water quality and quantity together to make it work. And this is just one step, trying to move it down the road.
Thank you. And as far as some of the verbal agreements that I've had with some area businesses, you know, we don't have anything on paper yet. Part of this is waiting for the board, but I've definitely spoken with individuals at Lowe's, Walmart, Zaxby's, Kiwanis Club, the Rotary. We're making up, you know, scouting groups. So this is something that a lot of people are going to be able to get involved with, actually, you know, hands-on dirt, and of course the financial contributions as well. So.
Thank you, Alderman Dunn, thank you.
One just additional thing I wanted to share, there is a little bit of strategy to kind of right-sizing the project. We thought that we would apply for a smaller project, keeping it at 150,000 maximum, because this will be the first time we would be a new grantee, and want to show that we have the capacity to complete the project. And we think we'll be more successful if we start with a smaller project than if we went out the gate asking for, let's say, $1 million or something.
Very good. Any further discussion?
I just want to say thank you to Alderman Dunn and to Mr. Taylor. This is fantastic. And knowing that there's already community engagement on this, this is what Tullahoma is about. So thank you.
Yes, Alderman Dunn, this is fabulous, and, you know, I don't think that it did it justice, and thank you for speaking to this, to have it on the consent agenda in order to really bring out how great this was, so thank you for that.
Thank you. We'll call the question. Vote green for approval, red for denial. That passes 7-0. Again, thank you to all who've worked that project. Okay, we saved one other thing for under new business. That's to consider the approval of the street list for annual paving. Of course, as you recall, at one of our previous board meetings, we had set aside in the budget $250,000 for street paving, and the motion was made to increase that by $100,000. So our street paving budget for next year is $350,000. So do I get a motion to consider approval?
I would like to consider approval with the amendment that the street, East Blackwell Street and Cedar Crest Lane be re-evaluated. I know it's not on that list. I hate to spring that on you.
It is.
East Blackwell?
Oh, it's not on. Yeah, it's on the
Oh,
side.
it is. Oh, I'm sorry.
But it says
There's-
alternate streets.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to
That-
make a motion
Excuse me.
to
All right.
approve it to 370,780 and include all these streets on the back. I think that's where you.
Yeah. Berry and blank.
What page is that?
137.
It's technically 370, 779, 15, but just now, so it doesn't have sense. 370, 780.
How'd you get that number? 371, yeah.
And what does that total come out to be?
370,780 is what I made the motion for.
Okay.
I rounded it.
Okay, you round it off. And we got a second? Got a second from Mayor Pro Tem Blanks. Any further, with that amendment, vote green for approval, red for denial.
Just a future budget amendment.
And that passes 7-0.
And can I just clarify, so we'll bring forward a future budget amendment where we'll either show an increase in revenue somewhere in the budget or a use of reserves or contingency. I don't think there's any left, but a use of reserves or an increase in revenue to support. You're wanting to fund this at, tell me again, 375,000?
370,700. Not to exceed 370,780, but it'll actually be, it's just an additional 26,000.
20,000.
Could we say 375, or you want it to be exact?
This would be that. Do we want?
Okay. These are still estimates. I know they look like exact figures, but.
I think we're good.
We're good.
Okay. And we did have a presentation for you tonight of some of the streets, but
Motion passed 7-0.
I know. I'll provide that in an email to you, so you can just see pictures of the streets and the segments that we're going to pave. Great job.
But you got $20,000 more for paving. Well, thank you. Good catch there, Alderman. Very appreciate that. With
like,
that,
that's how she does
there
that.
there is no further new business, so we will adjourn the board here at Alderman, and we will convene the beer board. Are there any public comments coming for the beer board? Floor is open for public comments for the beer board. Hearing none, we'll move on to the agenda item. On the agenda, we have the consent agenda. That's item number 21, beer board 31. It's the minutes from October 11th meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second move by Blanche, seconded by Blackwell. That looks good, and vote green for approval, red for denial. And that passes 7-0. There being no other old business, and there being no other new business, the meeting will be adjourned. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you.